This is India's year of G20 presidency, and the country is seeing increased global engagements, as part of which perhaps we have with us United States Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Global Markets, Arun Venkataraman. Very welcome, sir. We are seeing increased engagements around the world, increasingly with the United States, one of our most important strategic partners. Can we do some crystal ball gazing, really, how the year pans out? You just mentioned a while back at your press interaction that the U.S. Commerce Secretary would be here perhaps in the month of March.
Yes, happy to. I think this year holds a number of opportunities for engagement, both at the bilateral level as well as the multilateral level between the United States and India. We are looking forward to a range of economic collaborations and dialogues between the United States and India. We just had the U.S.-India Trade Policy Forum last week.
Yes.
U.S. Commerce Secretary Raimondo will be here in March, where she, together with Minister Goyal, will be convening the U.S.-India CEO Forum and the U.S.-India Commercial Dialogue. And then in addition to that, we look forward to a lot of multilateral activities, such as working through the Indo-Pacific Economic Forum with a number of partners, and we are pleased that India was a founding partner of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. Of course, India's G20 presidency goes without saying what an important year that will be, and a lot of engagement through that as well.
Yeah, all right. So let's go one by one. So these are top-level engagements, but when action has to happen, it has to happen on the ground. So you need people moving around between the two nations. The issue of visas keeps coming up. Is there some thought on that? The difficulties that many times, for example, on the H-1B issue?
Absolutely. You know, we have heard the challenges that are associated with the issuance of visas. We've heard from our Indian friends about some of those challenges. And let's face it, the pandemic did create quite a disruption to the issuance of those visas. But I'm pleased to say that we have really put ourselves on the trajectory to get past that. Last year, with respect to student visas, we were able to issue more student visas last summer than we had in the entire year before. And of course, for students, that's very important because they need to be in school by a certain time. So we were really pleased to be able to focus on that and get that done. With respect to H-1B and L visas, we were also able to make significant progress. And in fact, in 22, we were able to adjudicate more H-1B and L visas than we had done in 2019, which of course was before the pandemic. So we're on the path to getting back to where we want to be. We're not there yet. There's more work to do. We have doubled the hiring of staff to address the visas, and we're looking forward to making more progress on that issue.
All right. So you mentioned pandemic recovery. You know, the economic recovery is still sort of fragile, and while in some pockets inflation is cooling, and that can have even further recessionary impact. Post-COVID, we were talking about China plus one and the shifting of supply chains. But if China's recovery happens, are we going to see again a recalibration where the shifting of supply lines to India, for example, does not happen, or are we really steady about that?
So I think the pandemic revealed quite clearly that the supply chains as existed before cannot work for the modern economy. It does not work for our people as they were originally set up. The disruptions that we witnessed and the impacts it had on our economies, and more particularly on those most vulnerable citizens, that is not sustainable. And in fact, more important than how the governments have recognized that, what I would say is that industry itself, across sectors, has recognized that it is no longer capable of maintaining supply chains where there are choke points in locations that are vulnerable to certain disruptions. And so industry itself is taking on the initiative to diversify those supply chains. We know that when you diversify supply chains, that is not a short-term change, that is a long-term change. So we welcome the fact that China is reopening and is taking steps in that direction. But I think the question on supply chains is a question that's a change that is happening for the long term.